Good morning. Oh, I have to turn this back on. It is on. Perfect. Hey, we're already on 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Biblioteca Benjamin Franklin. We are here with Education USA Mexico, and we're going to have individuals log into our live webinar. And also this will be taped, so we could also have this as a resource to families across Mexico and outside of Mexico as well. We're here today to talk about the college admission process in the United States. My name is Eric Furta, and I'm the Dean of Undergraduate Admissions at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. The University of Pennsylvania is one of the 8 American Ivy League universities, and it is an instant of great learning founded by Benjamin Franklin. So we're absolutely thrilled to be in his library today here at the U.S. Embassy and with Education USA Mexico. If you would like to ask questions, please make sure that you do send in your questions to Sofia de la Garza, who's one of the advisors here at Education USA. Her colleague as well, Claudia Ortiz-Luca, will be with us, and I'm also joined by Jody Robinson, our Regional Director of Admissions for this region. And we've been traveling throughout Mexico City over the last couple of days. We are going to head to Bogota after this session and then on to Panama City as well. So we're in the region and talking about U.S. colleges and certainly about the University of Pennsylvania. I'd like to start off being a bit broad and talk about a MOOC platform, a massive online platform that the University of Pennsylvania is involved with called Coursera. We have some of our top faculty members who are involved in Coursera. You could take a single variable calculus course with Professor Robert Greist. You could take a course on modern poetry with Professor Al Filreis. Professor Michael Kearns is teaching his Network Life course. And across the humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, business, engineering, and nursing, we have so many opportunities on the platform called Coursera. Maybe if we can go over to the Coursera platform, I'd like to show you also a course that is available on applying to colleges in the United States. There's a wide range of resources here that can help you. We're going to go over some of this content today, and I'd just like to give you the outline for Coursera because this is going to give you a sense of what we're going to discuss today through my blog, page 217, which I'd like you to take a look at. And also you can get other advice from me on my Twitter account at Dean Furta. So the program laid out for Coursera in applying to U.S. colleges, week 1 goes over understanding the admissions process, what I and admission officers are looking for in your application, fit between the student and the university. We're going to talk a great deal about that. Rankings, use them responsibly. As with anything, we want to make sure that you have an understanding of the academic rigor at a school, academic reputation, but we want to make sure that you're using this information in a larger context. You'll also take a look at how we and admission offices evaluate applications, and you'll hear from current admission officers from the University of Pennsylvania, Purdue, Santa Clara University, Rhodes College, Montgomery County Community College. So a full range of colleges and universities within the United States. I won't go through the content of all of these other chapters, but week 2 is talking about researching yourself. It's not possible to apply to a college and tell your story unless you have your own self-reflection. This will help you as you think about the essay topics that you're going to address, the type of topics you would like to cover, what you would like to say about yourself, and even thinking about those teacher recommendations, the individuals that are going to add a further texture and perspective in your application. But first, you need to make sure that you understand yourself. Researching universities and creating a plan. We're going to talk about that a great deal today through a framework that I have on my blog. And then also the application process and the different pieces. You could apply to about 549 U.S. colleges and universities through the Common Application as a platform to put your information in, your basic demographic information in once, and then be able to submit that to member colleges that you're interested in. Many of the colleges and universities will have specific member questions as well, and may even ask additional supplemental essay questions. So for all of this, planning is critically important. And Sophia, we'll see whether any questions are coming in as I start toggling over to another resource that I would like to show, and that is my blog, page 217. So I do hear that there is a question that is being asked, and it is one that we will cover more broadly, but I do think that it's very important and it's a good way to lead in. Systems of education are different in various countries. In the United States, you have a 4-year degree. In some countries, that may be 4 or 5 years, and in other countries, that may be for 3 years. So certainly the duration of study may be different. In addition, because the question that we're getting here from Mexico is, being so focused on a particular academic area like technology and engineering, the shape of the curriculum could look very, very different. And so if you study engineering in the United States, particularly at the University of Pennsylvania, you'll go in depth into your field of engineering, but you'll also have a broad-based foundation in the liberal arts and sciences. And I think that that is a difference that students from outside the United States, whether they're in a European system, a system in Latin America, wherever the student may be studying in Asia, that there is less pre-professional focus in some areas of the United States curriculum, because there's going to be a broad-based liberal arts component and the more pre-professional studies. And we feel that this adds quite a bit of texture to the education that a student will receive, given that knowledge changes rapidly, particularly in areas like engineering. So Sophia, if we can go over to and show my blog, page 217, this is a resource that I feel can provide a great deal of information for students as you're starting the college admission process and going all the way through. This video that's shown, but I'm going to pause right now, is a presentation that I gave at the Avenue School in New York City to a group of parents to talk about the college admission process. So you can go through this video, I think it's around 20 minutes or so, and we'll give you a great overview, I feel, for the college admission process. But as we think back to the Coursera framework as well, and actually maybe I'd like to show how this is organized. When I say view all, there are a number of blog entries, some of which that I wrote, some of which were contributed by students who are admitted to the University of Pennsylvania, and some by my colleague Amy Smith in the Office of Admissions. And we have different pieces depending on the time of year. So as an example, where it says Convocation 2014, that's the welcoming address that I gave to our incoming students. So take a look at that as you're thinking about your transition into college. Navigating financial aid, having expert advice from our financial aid advisors so you could really think about what financial aid looks like, and we'll talk about that today. The admissions profile, what are incoming classes looking like, all the way through to things like an essay roundtable. Great advice that can give you a perspective on, well, what are schools really looking for in these essays? And then on the right-hand side of the navigation, you'll see my Twitter account at Dean Furta, where I may give some timely advice, something a bit more in the moment, a bit quicker on the top of my mind than writing a blog entry. The framework, though, and I'd like to go through this right now, is really through self-assessment. Before you can start the college process, I don't want you to start with these guidebooks and say, I need to go to page 420 of the rather large College Board guidebook because you're going to find the University of Pennsylvania. What I want you to start off with is really thinking about what is it that you want out of college. Think about the environment that you're looking for. As a student from Mexico, you're already saying, well, I'm going to look at colleges and universities within my home country, but I'm much more mobile as well. I may be looking at US colleges and universities. I may be looking at schools in Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, whatever the case may be. You are truly mobile for higher education. But you have to think about, well, what does that mean? What is the environment that I'm looking for? This may be distance from home, and you may already be saying that you're not really constrained about distance from home. But you still want to think about the overall environment. In Mexico City, we're in a very large city right now. What does it mean to look at an urban college or university? What does the campus look like in that urban environment? Is it kind of connected all the way through the center part of the city, or does it have its own defined campus? Like the University of Pennsylvania has a beautifully defined campus. It's almost like a park within the city, not as large as the park here in Mexico City, the largest park in Latin America, but you get the point that you're trying to look for maybe a vital area like an urban area, but what type of campus are you looking for? Part of your process may really be centered around what you want to study. and thinking about, well, does that school have the majors that I'm looking for, the program that I'm looking for? Doesn't matter what rank a school may have in national rankings or international rankings. If they don't have the academic program that you're interested in, it's not a good fit for you. Now, for students that have more general interests, maybe you're undecided about your major or your career later on, which we embrace in the United States. We would like you to have a broad-based education. Maybe you're looking for a school like Penn that has multiple undergraduate schools. At Penn, the College of Arts and Sciences. Penn Engineering, the School of Engineering and Applied Science, the first business school in the United States, the Wharton School of Business, and a preeminent nursing program as an undergraduate nursing program within an Ivy League school. All of Penn students can take courses across these schools. So as you're looking for breadth as well as depth, you may look for a place like Penn that has a number of undergraduate schools. Parents, students, I want you to be honest with each other and have conversations with each other. I think that that is critically important in having those conversations. Make sure that you're confronting what anxieties you may have. Maybe that's about distance from home. Maybe that's about financial aid. Make sure that the attributes that a student is looking for, make sure that you're aligned with your parents and vice versa, and have those conversations. This is the starting point. You have just created a list that doesn't specifically say you want a particular college or university, but what you're saying is, this is the environment I'm looking for. Perhaps the size of the undergraduate student body, 10,000 undergraduates at the University of Pennsylvania. That means we have a range of undergraduate opportunities. You have a strong peer group. There's breadth to that peer group. We have about 1,400 students who are coming from outside the United States of our 10,000 undergraduates. So you really have an opportunity to be surrounded by a diversity of ideas and a diversity of people in that type of environment. So you're putting these lists together. What is important to you academically, socially, the environment of that college or university. Then you can go to the next stop. But that is a critical first step. The next step is really taking a look within. And I call this the 5 Eyes and assessing yourself to really get a good perspective on, well, who am I? And the framework is around identity, intellect, ideas, interests, and inspiration. And I'll read through those for a second if you'd like to go to the page. Identity, how do you see yourself and how do others see you? So why is this important? I've already mentioned that you're going to ask 2 teachers and have a guidance counselor and maybe someone else write a letter for you, a letter of recommendation. You want to have that perspective on, well, how does this adult really see me? What can they say about me? We had a recommendation writing workshop yesterday at the American School Foundation, and we shared best tips and best practices for writing those recommendations. But that's an identity question that we're really looking at. Intellect, how do you think and approach the acquisition of knowledge? I'm not saying IQ, I'm not saying intelligence. What I'm saying here is we all have different ways of thinking, acquiring information, synthesizing information, sharing information, and I put that under the framework of intellect. Ideas, what do you think and why? What's your opinion? As a 17, 18-year-old student, you have strong opinions. We want to hear those opinions. We want those to come across. Interests. What do you choose to do when you have the time and flexibility? Those interests are very important. You're making choices in your life. Time is limited. There's only so many hours in a day. When you could do whatever you like, what is it? And I will add on the side note, particularly for driven young people, get some rest in there. You should be interested in being healthy and getting enough rest. Inspiration, what really motivates you? Students, this is where I'm going to sit here and say, every day you may show your interest, you may talk about your ideas, you're synthesizing information with your intellect, but you may not feel that you're really motivated, that you're really not passionate. But then something triggers, and you feel that this is a subject area that I really feel is very important. This is a time that I'm going to share my opinion because I really just can't be silent about something. You're seeing a student getting bullied. That's the wrong thing. You're inspired. You're moved. You say something about that. Maybe you put together a student group anti-bullying. Whatever the case may be, this is when your heart starts beating a little faster and you start feeling like this is the time that I really need to have my voice shared. So I want you to look at all of these pieces and realize that they connect into the college application itself later on, whether it's the recommendations, whether it's the essays at the University of Pennsylvania. Our alumni here in Mexico and around the world are reaching out to our applicants and offering them an interview. 31,000 interviews last year for an applicant pool of close to 36,000, and we're pushing to get 100% coverage. I want you to think about the 5I framework before you go into an interview. I want you to know what your ideas are, what your interests are, and how you're going to explain and explore them in the college interview. So you may feel like, gee, how do I get into college? And we're talking about the 5 I's right now. All of this is going to lead in and help you as you're making application to colleges and universities. We're going to go over to the 4 C's. Do we have any questions coming in at this point? Okay, we had one question coming in, and that was, well, what if I'm not inspired? What do I really do then? That's okay. This can come about. This isn't something you plan for. This isn't something that you're going to say, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I'm going to be inspired. Wait for those moments. They will happen for you. So as we make these connections now, the alignment of what you are interested in a college environment, your self-assessment with the 5 I's, we're now going to go to the 4 C's. And what I'm looking at here is, how do I assess colleges? And I think this is really the big part of the process for students who are into their junior year, and certainly by the fall of their senior year, but maybe the summer between junior and senior year. And then also maybe if you have an opportunity to visit campuses over a spring break or over a school holiday, that this is, so what do I look for? Obviously, you have a range of resources in order to investigate colleges, from our broad-based websites at a university level or to our more specific websites for the college admission office. You're going to get a sense of values of a college or university through that website. Guidebooks like I have in front of me from places like the College Board or Peterson's, but then also another range of resources like student blogs and getting a sense of what's actually happening on that college campus. But what are you looking for? And I frame this around 4 words, the 4 C's: culture, curriculum, community, and conclusions. So culture is, what is the history and mission of the institution, and how is the mission relevant today? It's one thing to talk about tradition and history and culture, but if all of it seems is kind of a stale past, then it's not relevant to you today in 2014, 2015, 2016 while you're a college student. So what we really want you to understand at the University of Pennsylvania, again, being here in the Benjamin Franklin Library, is the fact that our founder, Benjamin Franklin, is still relevant to the DNA of our university today. In fact, not only because of his statues, but because of his ideas, it is relevant today. Benjamin Franklin was an individual who was he was an intellectual, although he did not have much formal academic training as a high school dropout. Students, I'm not encouraging that whatsoever. But when you take a look at his ideas, he was a person who was well-read. He was an individual who would take some risks. He was the first researcher. He was an inventor. He was a scientist. He was a journalist. He was a statesman. And so when you think about when the humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, mathematics, Franklin was an inquisitive person. He wanted to know how things worked. And he was an experimenter to figure out how things worked. Those are the types of students that we're looking for today at the University of Pennsylvania. We're looking for students who are not only intellectual and thinkers, but you're also doers. You're going to get things done. You're going to take some academic and intellectual risks within kind of the safe confines of a major research university. So it's one thing to say our institution was founded in 1740 by Benjamin Franklin or any other college or university that you're exploring, but I also want you to get a sense of, well, how is that relevant to me today? I think also part of the Penn culture is a perspective that our students learn from each other and enjoy their experiences together. So you see a great deal of school spirit on our campus, and we could touch on that through other parts of the 4C framework. Curriculum, more than a listing of majors and programs, what is the design and aim of the courses you will take over 4 years? So when you go through and say, okay, I'm interested in studying history, and you go and you see that history is listed, obviously there's a lot of subcategories under history as well. The same thing with biology and chemistry. There are so many sub and interdisciplinary cross-sections within the curriculum. I really want you to examine them. Within the United States, the framework for college education is a traditional 4-year course of study. Sometimes the first 2 years will cover more broad-based knowledge, and then in the junior and senior year, you go into a major or more specific knowledge. This is very, very different from systems outside of the United States. So when you take a look at the shape of the curriculum, I want you to get an understanding of what are those foundational courses that students will take. That all of our students at Penn are going to take a small freshman seminar as an example, be able to explore ideas with about 15 students around a table. All students will take a writing seminar, needing to strengthen your ability to communicate in Word, on the written paper, or through any other editor that you may be using. We also want students to be fluent in languages. Coming from Mexico City right now, we will then encourage you to not only be bilingual, maybe trilingual, continue to study languages. We offer over 50 languages. We want students to have a context and understanding of cultures other than their own. Western, non-Western schools of thought. We want to make sure that you had that exposure. Grades and testing, we'll certainly talk about that in terms of the college application process. This is a question that's coming up. Thank you for the viewers for asking that question. We'll touch on that. So I want you to take a look within the 4 C's, aligning this to what your academic interests were in your alignment piece, thinking about your own interests and ideas and intellect. Now you're looking at, well, what courses will I take? And at Penn, what flexibility do I have? Across our undergraduate schools, we have a program or a philosophy that is one of structured choice. The faculty have an understanding of what areas of knowledge and ways of thinking you should be exposed to and develop, but we give our undergraduates a great deal of latitude with what courses they're actually taking across the liberal arts and sciences, across the Wharton School of Business, the School of Nursing, as well as Penn Engineering. What you'll also see within our curriculum is the ability to combine programs, maybe get a dual degree after 4 years, have a university minor in a course of study like consumer psychology, psychology in the College of Arts and Sciences, marketing in the Wharton School. You may combine interests across some of our graduate and professional schools as well, studying the fine arts and the history of art in the College of Arts and Sciences, studying psychology in the College of Arts and Sciences, while also taking courses within our Graduate School of Design for a program in visual studies. So all of these different opportunities, think of the shape of the curriculum, think of your interests, and how is that college kind of pulling together the intellectual resources. Community, who are the people, the physical spaces of campus, and the relationship of the campus to the local environment. So I think the word community is used quite often, and what I want you to think about here, particularly in the context of a college and university setting, particularly one like Penn, which is a residential college community, we have 11 college houses, is how do these 10,000 students from around the world with a range of intellectual interests, looking at the curriculum, looking at the culture, how do they come together and form community? And we want to make sure through our admissions process that we are bringing students together who are going to challenge each other, who are going to help you see perspectives different from your own, who are going to help you in teamwork because you're going to bring different skill sets to the table in project-based work. So through our community, we have on our campus a beautiful walkway through campus called Locust Walk. Please take a look at our campus design, our campus map, and get a sense of how Locust Walk connects all of our students across our beautiful park-like campus in the city of Philadelphia, in the University City area of Philadelphia. But there's also designed spaces on campus because of faculty interest, because of student interest that really shape the opportunities to build community on our campus. And I can go through a range of resources like our college houses, academically themed and social themed and civic themed programs within our college houses, while also we have places like the Kelly Writers House, Weiss Tech House, the Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology, the Institute of Contemporary Art, the Arthur Ross Gallery, the Platt Center for Student Performing Arts. I could go on and on. What the image I'd like to give you is you're going up through Locust Walk, and then you see a little light shining in a house, and you're intrigued, and you go in, and you enter into that community, and you find students who share an academic passion and interest just like you, and you create a home, you create a community there. I will say that this may be when you find your inspiration as well. Community extends beyond the campus confines. Philadelphia is the 5th largest city in the United States. It is a walkable city. It's an accessible city. It's an affordable city for college students. It's a great community as you think about opportunities for internships, art and culture, certainly the history of the United States with Independence Hall, Constitution Center, and the Liberty Bell, and also great food and music and things that young people are really interested in these various communities. Finally, conclusions, and I think this can really help parents think about the college process as well. What should I envision for myself at the end of my college experience? What are some of the outcomes I may expect? If you go to our career services website, you will see a range of resources and outcomes from our students. What the students are doing in terms of career choices, going into graduate school, starting salaries, by major within the arts and sciences and other areas, what field students are going into, and then also alumni surveys 5, 10, 15, 20 years out, so you can get a perspective on what a Penn education will do for you. Then also, I think for all colleges and universities and at the University of Pennsylvania, graduating into an alumni community of around 300,000 alumni around the world. Okay, so here we have these pieces. The assessment of yourself, the assessment of colleges. We're going to align this with your interests and aspirations and attributes of the college environment that you're looking for. Parents and students have aligned those areas of interest. Now we're ready to start looking at colleges. And this is where you could take a look at a range of institutions based on your criteria, your preferences, and start building a college list. Go into the Common Application, and you can start putting these colleges on your college list. Start exploring them further for the seniors. For the juniors or sophomores, this may mean going for a campus visit, coming in on a fly-in. Sometimes schools will actually bring you to their campus, and that you can really see what the resources are like. Sometimes travel may not give you an opportunity to visit many colleges that are further from your home. So please take a look when colleges are in your local area. Last night, we had a panel of young alumni called an Experience Penn program. So go to Penn in your town in the fall and in the spring and take a look at where we're traveling, either on our own or with our Exploring College Options partners, which are Harvard, Stanford, Duke, and Georgetown. So sometimes you can go out and hear from a number of different schools. Okay, so let's talk about the college process and some of the opportunities that Education USA offers. So here we are with the membership of the Ben Franklin Library. You could take out books such as the SAT book, the ACT, and TOEFL prep books. There's information and resources online. I see a number of conversation rooms that are here, and there's a number of programs that could help bring you with students who are also going through this process. There are also 16 Education USA centers in Mexico alone. So follow them on Twitter. I know that they have a lot of great advice. See where those offices are and use those as a local resource. And all of these centers are going to give you free information about studying in the United States. When Jody and I were traveling in Brazil, we did something very similar to this as well through Education USA, a great deal of resources. So let's turn this back to your college list now. You've already made that connection with these colleges. I want to make sure that you're being realistic and aligned, and I want to talk about two different pieces right now. One is taking a look at the question that came in from a group of students, academic preparation, and then academics as it relates to admission. For any student looking at schools like the University of Pennsylvania, we expect that you are challenging yourself within your secondary school curriculum, but there isn't one way to do that. That may be advanced placement courses, that may be the IB curriculum, that may be a state system or a countrywide system of education, and we're going to depend on you and your school to help describe to us what the educational setting is through your high school profile. I just want you to know for a student that this is within your control. Take full advantage of the resources in front of you, take full advantage of the curriculum, take full advantage of the faculty and the teachers within your school. Be specific sometimes if you're thinking about studying a field like engineering at Penn Engineering, we need to see that you're going to the top of the math curriculum and the physics curriculum. For our engineering curriculum, we certainly want to see, for our business curriculum, we want to see the top math curriculum. For our nursing program, we want to see chemistry. Very important in terms of the course of study. For the broad-based liberal arts and sciences, don't avoid anything. This isn't the time to say, well, I already took 3 years of math, I'm no longer going to continue with it. I already took 3 years of science or language, I'm no longer to continue with it. For this reason, match yourself up with the broad-based liberal arts and science curriculum, because these are areas that you will continue for a bachelor's degree in the United States across the arts and sciences. So take a look at the courses. Grading systems are different, and so we'll have that context as well. You are receiving probably some of the top grades looking at a place like the University of Pennsylvania, but we also look at trends within grades over your 4 years, 3.5 years, let's say. The senior year continues to be important, that you're putting your best foot forward. Please notice that I talked about curriculum and grades first, and I didn't talk about testing first. Now I'll finally get to that question, so thanks for asking it. Take a look at the middle 50% range of the test scores of students who are admitted to an institution each year. I'm seeing some smiles right now from Sophie. I'm sure she hears that quite a bit, and she also knows that that's realistic advice. Anchor yourself in that. For Penn, that could be for any of the College Board tests, maybe somewhere between 680 to 750 as a middle 50%, whether it's math, critical reading, writing, subject tests. That tends to be the anchor of our middle 50%. That means in the top quarter, it's students over about a 750. In the bottom quarter, it's students who are testing under 680. On the ACT, that could be between 31 to 34 on a 36-point scale. Part of the question that was asked here as well, thank you for giving it to me, is country context. And what we want to make sure of here is that we're sensitive to the fact that if English is your second or third language, that's going to be reflected in your test scores. Please don't stress about that. We understand that context. Maybe you're the first person in your family to go to college. There is a correlation between education and household income to the results on these tests. So we will be sensitive to that while looking at the full picture, including the grades and the high school transcript. So anchoring and aligning your academic performance and taking a look at the schools on your list, make sure, and you'll see this on the Coursera platform as well, that you're being realistic with your choices, that you're spreading out with admit rate and also test scores and grade point averages, what your credentials look like compared to the admitted student profile. So you're putting together a viable list. This isn't just putting names on a list, it's putting down schools that are a good fit for you based on the attributes that you identified, while also looking realistically at the admission process and putting yourself in a competitive position. What I recommend to families is apply between 6 to 8 schools. And within that, you're going to have enough time to really put your story out there and show the energy and focus that you need to show. Because if you start applying to 10, 15, 20 schools, you're simply going to be fatigued and you're not going to be able to fill out that many applications, even with the assistance of the Common Application. So what I want to make sure of is that you're putting together a list where you're going to get into, out of that 6 to 8, 3 or 4 of the schools. Okay, I'm not saying that you're going to get into 6 to 8 of them, and I'm doing that on purpose. You could only attend one school. So if you are admitted to one school that's on your list, that you put that school on your list, you're set. You can only attend one school. Obviously, we all would like to have a few more options. If you're admitted to, let's say, 3 or 4 of those schools, you will then go do a revisit and look at them in a way that is very, very different than when you were a bit aspirational putting them on your list versus really thinking about, wow, now I have ownership over this school. This school can be mine. You're also going to get denied by some schools. I'm saying it now, and I'm not saying that to be a rude person. I think it's just realistic in constructing a list. Be ready for it. You'll rebound from it. It's okay. So we put together this list. I want to talk about the application process a little bit more. It's with great opportunity that I could sit here in Mexico City and say that applying for financial aid at the University of Pennsylvania, we are need blind for students applying from Mexico. It's a commitment that we have that your family's ability to pay will not impact your admission decision at the University of Pennsylvania. The financial aid package will be comprised of a job on campus. We do have jobs for international students, and the rest of that financial aid package will be all grant and no loan, meaning that you can graduate from the University of Pennsylvania without any student debt. And I know that you're reading all the articles about student debt. You have the opportunity to graduate from the University of Pennsylvania without any student debt. More broadly, what I want you to look at is finding out whether a school is need blind in their admission policies or not. That may determine whether you apply for aid at that school or not, and it could impact your decision. See what the financial aid policies are. Please make sure that you get those forms in on time. As financial resources, if you're not in the queue at some schools, you may be left out if you didn't complete all of your information for financial aid. I call this part of the alignment as well. I think for most students who get into the University of Pennsylvania, they would get a merit-based scholarship at other schools. And merit aid is an important component for many colleges and universities to enroll the top scholars into their schools. So be cognizant of school-based merit aid programs. Penn and all the Ivy League schools are need-based financial aid, but look at some of the other merit-based programs as well. So the next step here is really thinking about, how do I tell my story in a college application? And this is when I want you to go back and be reflective about your 5 I's, the 4 C's, and how you're making that connection. So the first part here, we've already covered with the transcript, the grades, the pattern of grades, testing, and how we could correlate these two together to get a sense of academic preparation for our institution and competitiveness in our applicant pool. Last year, Penn received just around 36,000 applications, and we admitted just around 10% of those students who applied. But within those types of odds, I want you to know that your story matters to us, that we're not simply like some schools in the US and outside the US taking your numbers and making an admission decision. This is an area in which we want to get to know you as a person, and you're going to tell the story. You're the storyteller in this. It's within your control. So you're going to tell us what activities you have been involved in, the choices that you made outside the classroom, those opportunities where you really showed your leadership, or what you could do as a member of a team, or what your voice is like in the student newspaper, or when you needed to stand up for something as the lead of student government. What are the opportunities for civic engagement? When I was talking about community on Penn's campus before, and an ideal of Benjamin Franklin, that the great aim and end of all learning is service to society, we have 3 centers on our campus that are dedicated to civic engagement: the Civic House, Netter Center for Community Partnerships, and the Fox Leadership Program, and for Fox Leadership, Leadership Hall. Physical spaces on our campus. When you're thinking about telling your story, I want you to not only talk about your involvements, but also your impact. And certainly in terms of civic engagement and improving your community is very important to us at Penn, and I think at many other colleges and universities. You also have the essay prompts, common application essay prompts, as well as school-specific essay prompts. Be careful with some of the member questions on the Common App. Some schools will ask their essays on the member questions. Some will put them on the supplement. So please be aware, once you put a school on your college list, just where those questions may appear. I really want you to think about the prompts that are asked and know that you have a great deal of latitude. In many ways, the first question on the Common App is a kind of an open-ended question, and I think students treat it as such. But we want to know if there's an opportunity for you to cover maybe 2 essential elements of who you are as a person. What are those elements? And then once you've decided that, and again, this goes back to the 5 I's: identity, interests, ideas, etc. You've already done this work. Now you're just telling the story. I then want you to get into your writing comfort zone and think about the style of writer that you are and how you're going to get that information across to us, to an admissions committee. So go into your own style, make sure that you are editing and making sure that the grammar is correct and as tight as possible, while giving yourself the creative latitude as a writer. Then we also have our school-specific essays. And I think this is really the opportunity for you to connect the I's and the C's together to say, this is why the culture of Penn, the curriculum of Penn, the community of Penn, the conclusions at Penn, or for any other school really resonate with you. Now you're making that connection. You're telling us why you should be at our institution and how you would benefit from our institution, and even more importantly, the way you're going to impact our school. Because that's what we're really looking for, is we're not just looking to impact your educational career, we're looking at how you will impact our broader community. And you can communicate that through those essays. We also have the opportunity, as I mentioned before, with teacher recommendations. And how does this teacher know me? If you have 2 teacher recommendations, I want you to think about, well, how will this teacher describe me? And then given that, how could another teacher maybe describe other elements of who I am? So that put together, we're not seeing a complete overlap between these letters, but we're getting maybe 2 broader pieces of a puzzle that are giving us a little bit more texture about the type of individual that you are, the type of student that you are in the classroom, the type of thinker that you are. This is going to connect back to those ideas and interests. Yesterday, some of the teachers said that they will ask a student to write some responses like, well, what part of my class did you enjoy the most? When did you feel that you were most challenged in my class? How did you feel about class participation? So looking at those different pieces and really thinking about how that teacher can add a component to your application. If you're at a school that has a guidance counselor or other resources in a counseling context, you're going to give that letter to that college guidance office, and that counselor will write a letter that'll kind of lift out from the classroom and more about, well, what are you like as a school citizen, with academic elements, co-curricular elements, etc. in that letter. Penn does allow the addition of 1 supplemental letter with our application. Please take a look at the college websites. Some schools will allow this, others will not. If you want to show creative talent, we are very interested in students who are interested in the fine arts at our institution and the history of art and cinema studies and music. You may want to use Slide Room with the Common Application or some other avenues to show your talents. This may also be the submission of some type of scientific abstract that we can review. Finally, in terms of the assessment part, I've already touched on this a bit, are the alumni interviews or interviews on a college campus. This is a great opportunity. You need to be informed about that school. Our alumni want to know that you're speaking to them, that you're speaking to their alma mater, while also, as I suggested before, getting across those 2 or 3 elements that you feel are very important. And this may be the time that they ask a question that you do feel inspired, because you're moving at the edge of your seat and you're talking about a subject that they touched on that was particularly important to you. Okay, let's talk about some of the plans and how do you apply. So for many students, my general advice is to make sure that if you can get an application in on an earlier time frame for something like a rolling admission policy or kind of a preferred deadline where you may find out 6 weeks after you submit your application, a school that's on your list that has this type of plan, you may like to do that because that could shape the rest of your application process. If you know you're admitted to one school that you're really interested in, now you may actually reduce the number of applications you need to submit. And then within the United States as well, we have early action programs, November 1 deadline for mid-December notification, non-binding, but you are saying that you're interested in that school by submitting that early action, although you're not obligated to attend. And then at Penn, we have an early decision program. Early decision schools, you are saying, if I'm admitted, I will attend. So first, I want you to go to our net price calculator, make sure that you're comfortable with the direction of our financial aid. You can get a sense of the net price. You know about our all grant, no loan financial aid policy. You know that we're knee blind in the evaluation of your application. And then you could say, this is my first choice. I'm applying early decision. And you're going to get down 3 or 4 levels deep in that why Penn, about why Penn is truly your first choice. I do know that you have other schools on your list that may look a lot like Penn, and that's why they're on your list, but Penn really went to the top of your list to submit an early decision. Some schools will have an early decision 2 deadline, and then you also have the regular decision deadlines, and we'll find out at Penn this year on March 31st, along with the other Ivy League schools, and then we'll have admitted student days, Quaker days as we call them, through the month of April before the May 1, which is a common reply date for many of the colleges and universities within the United States. So here we have a range of resources to you, from EducationUSA to Coursera to my blog, page 217. If you have access to Sirius XM radio as well, the Wharton School of Business has a business channel. And I have some segments upcoming. December 15th is my next segment on SiriusXM. But if you're interested in business, you may be interested in the Wharton School SiriusXM channel. So there's a range of resources that are open to you. I'd like to thank you for logging in today, viewing this. And if you have any questions, we're more than happy to help. Take a look at When Penn is in Your Town and the other resources on our overall admissions web page. Thank you and have a great afternoon.